be honest, a lot of you guys are wondering, is this movie actually a flawless victory, or is it a fatality? Well, we're gonna find out right now. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new movie review. My name is Zach. I am the Wolf of Geek Street, and I love talking movies. And if you are here too, that means you must love talking movies as well. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as comment down below your favorite Mortal Kombat character and your thoughts on the latest Mortal Kombat film. Now, just like me, I'm sure many of you guys are coming here, either were fans of the 1995 version, or even just love the video games and want to hear about how the movie is before it releases. Now, maybe you're already here and you just saw the film as well, because it debuted on HBO MAX and in theaters. Now, for me, I love the games. It is my favorite fighting franchise of all time. All the ways, like anytime I have friends over, even my girlfriend, we sit down, we play the hell out of Mortal Kombat, and we just have an utter blast. But when it comes down to back to the 1995 version, it was enjoyable. It was entertaining, super cheesy, and definitely, you know, for some people I know it holds up. For me, it's never been a film that I completely love to revisit. So I did want a new interpretation of Mortal Kombat. And here we are in 2021. We have this version, and it's definitely not a flawless victory, but it's not a complete fatality as well. This is a movie that I completely learned probably within 30 to 40 minutes of the film that if I don't turn off my brain, I'm not going to enjoy this. You need to turn off your brain. You just need to shove popcorn in your face, and you need to completely and utterly just let the film take you for what it is. Because that's what it is. The screenwriting here is a little bit of a mess, and I wouldn't even say a little bit. It is a mess. There's a lot of difficult choices that I didn't overall love with the writing and the story. In general, the characters that they mostly focus on, I also wasn't the biggest fan of. I had predictions to where some of those characters would go, which definitely didn't get in the way of anything because I checked my expectations at the door, but I feel like there was better ways that you could have gone around going about the fish out of water story, especially if you would have taken in different characters or misplaced them and put in different ones in certain sections. Other than that, though, there's a couple other issues I have with the screenwriting, which we'll get into. I don't want to completely just utterly crap on the film right away because this is an entertaining movie, and that's flat out what it is. Mortal Kombat, the action is point blank fucking incredible. Like, I loved almost every single action set piece in here, and it opens up with some great stuff. The middle act gets a little bit slow, but once it finally hits that point where it's the rising action into the third act, it's like completely non-stop, gory, messy, fatalities every sense of the way, and just bloody galore that you are going to absolutely love, just like I did. And especially as a fan of the video games, it's something that I wanted to see. Like, I laughed, I smiled, I sat there just completely, utterly invested in this movie because I am a fan of the video games. And I think that's where it's going to come about to. I think if you're someone who loves the video games or in general likes them, I think you're going to like this film more than others. But if you're someone who's like a cinephile or in general just a giant movie fan who wants like the best action and a pretty good story, I think you're going to walk out a little bit mixed on all that. I think video game fans, again, are the ones who are going to get a lot more enjoyment out of this than anything else. That's where I go too far to say, again, as that video game fan, there were so many great callbacks and fun little instances where I was sitting there like, oh, I get that. Oh, they brought him? Oh, I didn't know they were in the movie. And all those elements are completely fun to see how they mix in and interact them, even if they don't completely explain anything at all. I already kind of mentioned it, but the gore and the fatalities are just magnifico. They are perfect in every sense of the way. If you're wanting to see them on the screen, you're going to get it. I have no idea how this film did not go above an R rating. It must have been pretty close because, yeah, it's bloody. It's not just CGI blood, it is very much practical and feels real. And for only like a $50 million budget, you can definitely tell where all that went. Surprising enough, the visual effects in here are actually really good for all the characters who are fully realized inside of those. I wasn't expecting that, and it was very much a big pro for me because I was worried about that when it comes to a smaller budgeted film. Adding into all that, they definitely got the production and the costume design spot on. I think for some people they might think it's a little bit too cosplay-ish, but I really dug it, and especially some of the locales they go to. I was like, yeah, this definitely feels like a Mortal Kombat movie, because like they go to certain places and I'm like, why are they here? Who cares? Let's just have them fight. Honestly, each role was casted really well. I found each actor, even though again had issues with the script, thought they really embodied each role pretty well. Whether it's Lewis Tan as Cole Young, who's a newcomer to the series, I dug Cole for the most part. Lewis Tan, I think, is probably the biggest reason that I did dig that. Scott McName as Sonya Blade, awesome. Josh Lawson as Kano, a big standout. Joe Talisman as Sub-Zero, freaking awesome in all those ways. Brooks as Jax. I mean, you just go kind of down from there. And Sano as Lord Raiden. And of course, Sanda as Scorpion. Now, if I mispronounce any of those names, I am so sorry. I'm really bad with names at times. But seriously, they really embody all these roles. And even some of the other characters that do show up in here, they do a really good job of bringing them to life. I honestly cannot forget to talk about Liu Kang and of course Kang Lao, played by Max Hung and Ludi Lin, who are absolutely just bonkers awesome in this movie. It just goes as far to say, as you can see the energy that I'm portraying right now, that's how much fun I had with this movie. I laughed, I smiled, and even again, the score all intertwined in here was just perfect Mortal Kombat score. And again, I know a lot of people were really attached to the 1995 version, but I really dug what they did with this one as well. And of course, let's go back to my cons, because like I mentioned, I had a lot of issues with the screenwriting. I found the script for this film to be pretty much completely weak. If you have never invested at all in Mortal Kombat, talking to a couple of my friends who are kind of that same way or haven't played a game in forever, you're going to be completely lost with what is going on. There are certain characters that pop in that have like no background context at all, and I mentioned that there are certain characters that I wish they would have focused in on more. Now, I don't want to get into spoilers per se, because I do have a lot of thoughts on that, but when you see the film, I feel like you'll kind of understand where I'm coming from. And I was sitting there going, all right, let's go back to those characters, because I like those ones more. That's just because I'm a fan of the games, and those are some of my favorite characters that I want to be more invested in, and I was really hoping that they would have touched on that, especially within the first act and how they set up certain things. Even though I really dug Lewis Tan and how Cole Young is a brand new character to this world, I actually kind of wish they just went with a character from the games to kind of be the fish out of water. There's a couple characters in particular that I can definitely think of. And once again, going back to the screenwriting, the dialogue, the exposition, all that is very generic. The best thing about the dialogue, and again, this is a film you turn your brain off, and I can't believe I'm complaining this much, but again, the critic in me needs to talk a little bit about this. When they say the one-liners that are clearly from the video games, it just put a freaking smile on my face, and I thought that's the stuff that worked. Even though it kind of didn't, I dug it as a fan, and I think if you're not a fan of the video games, you're going to think it's the stupidest thing ever, already on top of how bad the script is. You might be looking at me and being like, why are you complaining about a Mortal Kombat script? Why are you complaining about that? It's Mortal Kombat. And you're right. I should not be complaining about the script. You know, again, as a fan of the games, I adored it. As a critic, though, I do have issues with it. And it kind of just like, I feel like Mortal Kombat has a really rich mythology and lore, and some of the characters in here have a deep character arcs that you could have really gotten into. And I feel like that's kind of the biggest miss that they truly had with this entire movie. I think overall, when I see this movie again, I'm going to be able to turn off my brain and like fully enjoy the thing overall, because now I know like what I'm getting into, because I feel like the trailer built up a couple things that I was looking forward to in particular, and even though it executed perfectly well on the action, the characters, like seeing these characters come to life within the actors, the story definitely needed some help. It's kind of the perfect amount of cheesiness, but it's also just super generic, and I feel like the world deserved a little bit better. Mortal Kombat for me is more enjoyable than the 1995 version, and that might be blasphemy for some of you guys, and you know, this isn't a flawless victory, nor is it a fatality. It's predictable in some of its story elements, and again, the screenwriting is not the best. I think the writing really missed the mark on certain elements, and again, I think it missed the mark in exploring this world a little bit more. It went very generic, and even though the cheesy one-liners and all those elements and getting everyone to fight worked for the most part, I think that was mostly said to the direction of this, not because of the story given. The characters in here, though, it was great to see them come back to life into a live-action form, into a new interpretation, and I loved the action scenes in here. They all put a big smile on my face. I loved seeing the gore, the fatalities, and seeing how they all brought it to life. That is what you go to a Mortal Kombat film for. Now again, the critic in me wants to criticize everything else, but I had fun with this movie. I was sorely entertained with this, and I think a lot of people are going to be fully disappointed in this movie and really probably be mad at it, or in general, but I think if you're a fan of the video games, you're going to fully enjoy this one 100%. So with all that said, I'm going to give Mortal Kombat a B. Let me know down below, guys, what your guys' thoughts are. Again, I did have a lot of issues with certain elements when it came to a filmmaking perspective, but God, is this film just a ton of fun. I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts on the movie down below in the comment section. Here, let me hear who your favorite Mortal Kombat character to go play is. I definitely, like, watching the film, I was sitting there, I'm like, now I want to, like, get all my friends together and have, like, a giant Mortal Kombat tournament, because that's what it got me in the mood for. But again, guys, thank you so much for clicking on this. Make sure to head on over to Sandwich Run Films on how to see films early, and of course, it's a big thing to you and a big thing in my Patreon supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. So, of course, until next time, stay classy.